So, January, new me, new you, new year, new me, all of that. I mean, lots of people on Instagram and things have been saying, just stay as you are. But I'm not. I'm one of those people that wants to lose weight. I want to get fitter, want to be more mindful, better mum, better wife, all of that stuff, and change my relationship with booze. And I think a lot of people feel like this. Every year I say I'm going to do it, but I have never, ever done dry January. And this year I thought, you know what? I am going to do it. Don't have a particular problem with booze. I think I don't, I would never consider myself alcoholic, but when I do party, I party quite hard. I do enjoy a social drink, and I think a lot of people feel that way. And as I'm getting older, I'm noticing how it affects me. I'm sure you might be as well. So we thought we would enlist some help, because I think the North East might need a bit of help as well. Hannah Harvey is from Mum's Day, gave up alcohol around 7 years ago, and Sue Taylor is head of alcohol policy for Fresh and Balance, and they are in the studio here with me today. Thank you so much for being here, ladies.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Good. And a cup of tea, which is probably what you've been having don't know if you're doing dry January. Sue, are you doing dry January?
If I'm being absolutely honest, I'm not doing dry January, Anna, but I do think January is a great time to try and cut down. And I think for me, it's trying to get as many drink-free days as I possibly can do, and ensure that I'm trying to maintain that good relationship, I think, with alcohol.
Right. And just before we start, what's going to be quite an in-depth chat, that's where you're at the minute, Sue. You're trying to kind of change your relationship a bit with it, and, sensibly, wisely, healthily, all those kind of things.
Yeah, I think, professionally, again, working for Fresh and Balance, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, to try and put these messages out. I think in the North East, many of us do drink probably too much on too many occasions. And I think January is a great time to try and reset. I think for me, it's appreciating that as I get older, actually my ability to even try and metabolise alcohol is reducing. So I think anything that I can do to cut down that consumption is really good from my perspective.
And Hannah, what about you, from your perspective? Where are you at? Just that people listen to the show now know sort of where you're coming from.
So I completely quit drinking, well, as you say, nearly 7 years ago.
Gosh, that's a long time. That's really good.
Just sort of racked up.
Right. And we're gonna get into the whys and the wherefores in two ticks. Just to sort of go back to basics, Sue. When we think about alcohol and drinking alcohol, we know drinking alcohol isn't good for us, but how much is too much? Is that a difficult question?
Do you know, it is a difficult question. I think for different people, it can be different levels. The Chief Medical Officer's low-risk guidelines are about 14 units per week, and that equates to maybe a bottle and a half of wine or maybe 5 pints of beer. So, for many people, that can be a relatively low-risk limit. But actually, alcohol is harmful. And I think, as you say, Anna, it's just tricky getting those levels to be acceptable because, for some people, I think it can kind of push you over the edge, and drinking that, even small amounts of alcohol can result in you, I suppose, drinking more and becoming more dependent.
And also, if we talk about what's safe, it depends what situation we are, because alcohol can put us in so many dangerous situations. Is it 1 a week, 2 a week, two if you're driving? Absolutely not. 1 if you're driving. I always find it weird that we're allowed even 1 when we're driving. I find that a really weird proposition. I think it's odd. So I guess that is a difficult question. There is no doubt medically that alcohol is not good for us.
Yeah, I think there's increasing evidence that even from the first drink, unfortunately, it's not necessarily good for you. So I think we know that alcohol, for example, is linked with at least 7 different types of cancer.
Yeah, we had a really big chat about this, about breast cancer and levels of breast cancer in the North East.
We know that it's linked to around 200 medical conditions as well, and that would range from really quite long-term physical conditions to much shorter-term kind of mental health issues as well. So, there's no denying that any amount of alcohol can be quite harmful. Yeah. I guess for some people, having that relationship where they can drink at levels where it's unlikely to risk their health is possible.
And relationships, let's face it.
Absolutely. But I think we're seeing increasingly that many people are choosing to kind of cut alcohol out of their life completely. And I think, doing months off alcohol can help you to really see the benefits. We talk about sleeping better and things like that. So, loads of benefits from cutting down in the short term as well as in the long term.
So, Hannah, 7 years ago, and you're a young, fresh-faced person. You look young and fresh-faced. It's probably because you don't drink. Gives you wrinkles, everybody. But what was the catalyst? I hope that isn't too personal a question to ask you. What the catalyst for totally giving up was?
Okay, so I tried moderation. Yeah, and I tried really hard to plan when I would drink. So I'd be like, I'm cutting down. I'll have a couple on Friday, and then I discovered I can't actually do it. I'm completely all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this great book called Better Than Before, and she talks about this idea of you're either an abstainer or you're a moderator.
Okay.
So Sue is a great example because she's a moderator. She can have one or two.
Yeah.
I cannot.
So you could never have one or two. It would always be 5.
Yeah, 5, 10 on the table.
Yeah. See, that's kind of probably a little bit like me, if I'm honest. But I do think that we blame ourselves for that. And a lot of people say what you're saying. And there will be a lot of people listening to the show now who are the same as you, Hannah, and the same as me. Mm-hmm. And we blame ourselves. But actually, alcohol in of itself is a drug. Yeah. And it makes you want more because it gives you that dopamine hit, which, by the way, only lasts 20 minutes.
That's why you need another one.
Which is why you need another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have too much of it, and then your brain chemistry cannot cope with it. Mm-hmm. So that throws you over the edge, whether it's towards having no perspective, because it does affect the front part of your brain, doesn't it?
It does,
in your perspective, which is why you say things you shouldn't do and do things you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So it makes you want more, doesn't it?
Exactly. So I just realised that if I want to feel better about myself, because I hated that feeling of waking up in the morning and being like, oh God, I did it again.
Yeah.
Who did I upset?
Yeah.
And I was getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know how to control this without completely cutting it out of my life.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
How hard was it?
I found some really great resources. Because up to that point of reading this article, I was like, I can't do it. My entire life revolves around it. My husband drinks, my family drinks, all my friends drink. Yeah. How could I possibly do it?
And this is what a lot of people think, listening to the show now, will be feeling, that it's culture. It's what we do. I don't know if it's just as Brits, but particularly as Northeasterners as well.
Yeah. So I was like, no one's going to want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
I had this deep-rooted fear that I was very boring. Yeah. And that if I stopped drinking as a people pleaser as well, I was like, they're all going to hate me. No one's going to hang out with me and I'll have to stay at home and never see anyone again.
And?
Of course that's not true.
There you go.
It's just an excuse to, your brain is going, you need drink.
Yeah.
So it's constantly telling you reasons why you should drink.
Go on, Sue.
I was just going to say, I think for me it's really interesting because actually this is exactly what the alcohol industry is looking for us to feel. So you think of the alcohol marketing, the way that alcohol is kind of associated with success, with the opposite sex, going out socialising. It feels like it's really intrinsic to pretty much everything that we do, and certainly on those social occasions. So I think, for me, we've got a hugely powerful and well-resourced industry that's kind of pushing out these messages. You go into the supermarket and alcohol is stacked up high by the doors. You go into, your hairdressers and florists nowadays, and actually alcohol's available. So I think, for me, the availability, the pricing and the marketing of alcohol is so pervasive and so easily accessible that actually all of us are kind of subliminally encouraged to drink as well, and just think that it is that social norm, whereas increasingly more and more people are taking steps to either cut down or reduce their consumption completely, and actually that's becoming more of a social norm. So I think it's acknowledging that as well.
And I'm going to get some tips from you in a minute, Hannah, as to how you did it, but what was the reaction of other people? Because very often, so I was out on Saturday night, so I'm doing Dry January. A couple of my friends were like, that is fun, well done, good on you. They were actually quite positive about it. And then one or two were like, oh, are you sure you don't want to stay over at Auntie Susan Shields? Are you sure you don't want to, stay and have a drink? So there's the balance, isn't there, of the reaction. What was the reaction?
For the most part, it was very positive. A few of my friends probably aren't friends as much anymore because I didn't want to get hammered all the time. So it changed what I was doing. I stopped being invited to some things.
That's interesting.
But it's more the FOMO and the people pleasing that you need to manage. And also, I think a lot of our fears about going out is us projecting onto others. Yeah. Because drinking me is like, I want everyone around me to drink. Yeah. So therefore, I assume I'm putting everybody out. Yes. When actually, nobody cares what you're doing.
That's a very interesting point. And we're going to get onto that in 2 ticks. We're going to have more of a conversation about that. So my guest today, Sue Taylor, who is Head of Alcohol Policy for Fresh and Balance, in the studio with me. And also Hannah Harvey, who is from Mum's Day, who gave up booze around 7 years ago. And Sue, we were just chatting there off air about dry January and this idea of complete abstinence, and I know for you that's completely worked, Hannah, that has been it for you, abstinence. And for a lot of people, you know, I've got members of my family that are, you know, properly alcoholic, and there is absolutely no way that you can drink a little bit when you're alcoholic. It's not going to happen. You're chemically dependent on it, so you can't drink a little bit. But for some people, there is this idea that there is a positivity in just cutting down, and I think Balance are into that idea, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's finding something that works for you, in my opinion. And I think, you know, for many people, January is a great time to reset. And we would say, you know, even if a month of alcohol feels unobtainable, then there are massive benefits in just cutting down, taking days off during the week. And I think immediately you can start to see better sleep, you might lose a bit of weight, and just actually feel better in yourself. I think, you know, January can be such a kind of challenge for a lot of people for many reasons. But actually, you know, getting control of your alcohol consumption and trying to cut down in any way that you can is a really positive thing to do.
So here's the question, and a lot of people might be feeling this as well, as dry January. So my son's birthday is January the 20th. He's 26, so he's allowed to drink, and probably does too much, because a lot of 26-year-olds do. We're going out for a big family party with another family. And I'm thinking, if I'm the one that is saying, oh no, I'm not drinking, they'll be like, what are you not drinking for? You're the party girl, you're the bouncy girl. You know, why aren't you drinking? So how do you cope with that? Can you still have fun? Can you still be that party person?
Absolutely. I have to wait for everyone to have a drink until, you know, when they'll come and dance with me, because I arrive ready to party.
So you're the first person on the dance floor.
And I have a feeling that you will be like that too.
Maybe.
If you gave yourself chance.
Yeah, so we tell ourselves things, don't we?
So I think you might be projecting a fear onto other people.
Yeah.
That you're upsetting them.
Yeah.
But really, they probably don't really mind if you have a drink or not.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that you always think, and people in life generally spend a lot of time worrying about what other people are thinking about them, but for the most part they're thinking about themselves, aren't they, and what other people are thinking about them. So that's a really, really good point, Hannah. Great point. And so say I was to drink on January the 20th and I was to have 3 glasses of Prosecco and nothing else, and that was it, and I had a good night and it was great, that's not the end of the world.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, as I said before, Anna, you know, anything that you can do to cut down your consumption is a fantastic thing. And, you know, I drink myself. I think it's something that I do enjoy, but trying to find whatever works for you when it comes to your alcohol consumption is important. I think, you know, in the Northeast, many of us drink far too much. We've got the highest rates of alcohol consumption within this region, the highest rates of hospital admissions, etc. So I think, you know, as a region, if we can collectively try and cut down, and for, you know, people who are drinking and drinking above those low risk guidelines, then, you know, anything that they can do to cut down, I think, can be really helpful.
And let's look to the positives, because I think that's really important. We know what the harm is. We know it's basically 1 molecule away from ethanol, and it's attractively packaged poison. And as you say, how many diseases? Like 200 diseases.
Yeah.
You know, the risk of Alzheimer's, the risk of breast cancer, certainly. Yeah. It goes up and up and up. All of those things, relationships, getting in cars, all of those, you know, dangerous decisions. So we know all the bad bits. Let's talk about the positives and the scary bits, I think, of giving up alcohol, where people think you're not going to have fun anymore. Let's talk about the positives. How has your life changed, Hannah, for the better?
It is the best thing I've ever done for myself, apart from have 2 beautiful children, obviously. Yeah, completely transformed my life. I feel like I spent a lot of time thinking about alcohol. Yeah. If I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about when I was going to drink. Yeah. So it just completely freed my brain, all that space to be like, oh, what can I do instead? Yeah. I started a podcast. I'm writing a book. Yeah. You know, I'm getting in the sea. Yeah. Connecting, because the thing I think we worry about is losing friendships, and connection is like vital to being a human.
Absolutely. It's key to longevity.
Yeah. So, I mean, making sure that you keep connecting with people, but maybe look at doing it in a different way.
So meeting people to go for a walk, meeting people to, I don't know, go and do something creative, do a bit of painting, do a bit of, I'm meeting some friends to do some ring making classes in February. So I just thought, and I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to drink where previously I would have drunk.
Yeah.
So it's taking up. Talk to me about the treating yourself thing, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So because I saved so much money, it was like my 3rd year anniversary. I'd saved up enough to buy myself some Chloe boots. They're beautiful. In fact, I'm wearing them. I'll show you after.
Let's have a look. Let me just look under the desk. Oh my goodness me, practical and beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's, I mean, pints of lager, bottles of Prosecco, that's a few of those that you could have just drunk and put down your throat.
Exactly.
And instead you get to walk on them.
That's
fantastic. And clarity of mind?
Totally. I think one of the hardest things when you quit something is trying to work out why you did it in the first place.
So the why is really important.
Yeah. So I've got really into yoga and getting still, and it's deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, trying to work out why you do certain things is not fun, but it means that it frees up space to kind of go on to do what you really should be doing and your purpose and all those really fun things as well.
Yeah. And understanding your why in life is very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Along with connection, I'd say that's the next thing.
And what would your tips be then, Sue, for people that are trying? What would your top tips be?
I think, it's really interesting to hear what Hannah's been saying.
Very interesting.
Actually, the people tend, I think, to think of the negatives of drinking or of giving up drinking. Rather.
Yeah, like I'm not going to go to the party.
Exactly.
Where's the fun?
We talked about fear of missing out and stuff earlier on, and I think, it's very natural to do that. However, there are so many different positives and even real kind of short-term health benefits, I think, are important. So I think, for me, it's almost... make steps that are obtainable to you. So even if it's, you want to drink on a night time, maybe cut down the amount that you're drinking on that particular night time, have 2 drinks rather than 3 drinks or 4 drinks or however many it might be. Try and take drink-free days during the week. Yeah. And I think very much for me, kind of working Monday to Friday, I don't tend to drink during the week, and that feels to me that's something that's obtainable. So everyone is different and everyone gets, I guess, different benefits from either kind of stopping drinking or reducing the drinking. But, taking those little steps that soon contribute to a much bigger step is a good way of doing it, I think.
And don't beat yourself up and dry down. We had a text earlier saying, I did drink last Saturday, but I'm back on it now. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Don't beat yourself up.
Doesn't, having 1 or 2 occasions where you might drink compared to probably 3 or 4 occasions when you might have drunk previously. Yeah, I think is a real plus. So.
And another thing about which I've noticed with non-drinkers, and I think this is quite an important point, that when you're out, don't just drink the thing that you drink all the time. So if you're addicted to Diet Coke or whatever else it may be, Pepsi, whatever other brands are available, don't drink that. There might be something nice that you can have. Why not have a special mocktail?
Oh, there's loads of things you can try now.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about supporting, the pubs and things like that.
That's very important.
They're nearly as expensive as alcoholic
They are
drinks.
as expensive, because I had a fake pink gin on Saturday night and it was very expensive. So, yeah, worth it. Yeah. If people want more tips and they want to find you, Hannah, in your journey, where can they find you?
A really good place to start would be mumsdays.com/dryjan.
Yep.
Because I've got loads of resources on there if you do want to give it a try, including a kind of journal with loads of prompts and tips to be thinking about over the month.
Yep, great stuff.
And a really great book to read is called Control Alcohol by Annie Grace.
Right.
And it'll address all those fears that you have around quitting. And the other thing I would say is treat it as an experiment.
Yeah.
So
not as something that you're going to necessarily fail at, just give it a go.
Just like have a look and see, like for example for your son's birthday, go, okay, I'm going to try just having 2.
Yeah.
And then you'll know by the end of the day
if you can do that.
If you can do it or not.
or if I'm saying shots at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. Please tell me.
I won't be. I'll get back to you. And also, finally, just worth mentioning, I think, the dopamine thing, which we've been talking about, which is what alcohol does if you look at the chemistry and you find out the chemistry of it. If you go into cold water in a safe manner, your dopamine hits about 5 hours. If you have drink of booze, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's the science.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming in, and we've found out where people can go for you, Hannah. Sue, if people want to find more from you, where do they go?
Yeah, a couple of resources from us. I'd advise if people want information about the risks of alcohol and kind of hints and tips for cutting down, then our reducemyrisk.tv website is the best place to go.
Superb. So nice to chat to you. Let's raise a cup of tea.
Yeah. Glass of water.